Yes, this is a very personal type of video. Even more so than like, hey, I'd taken advice of a person. I was thinking about using superfine sandpaper to knock the sheen off of stuff into kind of antique paint. Hello, cat. Using the scrubby side of the sponge. This was a little too shiny for my taste with the 2 coats of Helmsman spar urethane varnish. So it's like, just take the scrubby, knock that sheen off. It works really well. It looks a lot nicer. But this is picking on a viewer day. Actually, gotta watch out, Keith, when you request a video. I'm gonna pick on you. The manager of the nature preserve that took over after I left moved to Raja City, and he wanted to know if I would do a video on some ghost stories, some spooky stuff. And that's tough because it basically started, you kind of meld in with the preserve. You become the preserve and the preserve becomes you. It started in 1997 and ended in 2023. So how do you cover a span of 27 years in a coherent way? I mean, I could discuss individual events, like I'd be checking in cars and I would see the license plates, because you write down the license plate in place in case people do naughty stuff. You've got a record of them. Seeing where they're from on the rear license plate and saying, oh, you're from this place. And they're like, how'd you know? You go, well, it's on your license plate. And they're like, no, it isn't. And then both me and the person that was driving the car walked back there, and it's like, wow, the license didn't say that. I just knew where you were from. Or else being able to see a person that didn't look problematic. I would tell one of my staff members, go down and check the beach because they're doing something bad. I just knew. It was like some weird connection that develops. I could tell you about things that I've seen and other people saw. But or the animal ambassadors, it was like every year, or it was over a period of time, there would be an animal that would come out of the woods and be friendly with me, like Sasha the deer, who would sit when it was busy underneath an oak tree with me, and then when she heard people coming, would go around them, and when they left, she would come back to the oak tree, play tag with her, which was fun. I could tell you about how there was a period of time I'd be just hanging out at the fire circle, and I would hear things being said in the native language, and then I would go to the elders, and after a while they were like, oh, did the old people talk to you again? And I'd tell them what was said, and they would interpret it. And after a while, I'm not going to mention any specific names of the elders that spoke the language, they started calling me Little Big Man. So there's a lot of stuff that happened. I will say that there are 3, in deference to the spooks, the spooky side, 3 different kinds of things going on there. There's stuff that passes seasonally, when spring, summer, winter to spring, summer to fall, when the seasons are crashing into each other, you get a new group of spooks through there. There's the echoes, I'd call them. And that's just like listening to a tape recorder or a record. It's reverberations. They are not aware of you, and you are kind of not aware of them, because it's just, ripples on the water after a pebble gets thrown in. And then there's the full-time spooks that are there all the time. I'm not going to get into good or bad. I'm just going to say that some are scary and some are not. But if you watch my channel, you see that, I'm into patterns and some form of symbolisms and stuff like that. I make stuff. I design stuff. I carve stuff. I paint things. And I was inspired to make 2 boards. I'm not going to say where they are. But there's kind of a positive board and a negative board, because everything is positive and negative. It's the balance of things. You can't have one without the other. It's 2 boards. And the positive board, I'd hang it up all over the place, and it's like, not carving, I'll say. I did it with a router, but painted 3 circles and then designs within those circles. It could be hanging anywhere. It was pleasant. It had to do with my friend Simon Otto. There was a rabbit at the top. Because before Simon would come, on his surprise visits to give me something or just hang out or talk, teaching me stuff, I'd see a rabbit in the fire circle. It's like, Simon's going to come. So the top painting is a rabbit. So Keith, if you find these boards, that board of the rabbit, it's a nice board. The other one, not so nice. And they need to be kept in the area of the fire circle. And I'll show you why. I made this bed. I wound up doing a tree job for the township, my employers, and around the township hall. Took down a lot of cedars, to give it more light because moss was growing on the roof and stuff. And so I took those cedar trees, brought them back to the Swift, the nature preserve, and made this bed out of them, kind of a canopy bed made out of cedars and notched log cabin style and stuff. Didn't have a headboard. And so decided, got married to my second wife, I'm going to put a headboard on the bed. And it was creepy. I wasn't thinking, I didn't use the happy board because I didn't want to cover it up. I used the other one. So I made a headboard out of that and mounted it to the bed, and it was creepy as heck. So I put leather over it. But still, it kind of exuded creepiness. Well, that night, we were awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 is always kind of a weird time. I don't know why. To the sound of wolves howling and screaming in the living room. It was loud. It shook us both awake. We both heard it. We run into the living room, and the computer had turned on. And aside from the wolves howling everywhere, there was a song by this band, not one of my bands I listened to. I'd go with Leonard Skinner or Led Zeppelin, let's just say. It was a song by the Dead Can Dance. Interesting group. Kind of spacey. Kind of new agey. And the volume was turned up well beyond what that computer could do, what the speakers could do. And on the screen were flames. It was just a weird sight. And it's like, I'm going to turn this off. Tried to turn it off. The computer would not shut down. So I just plugged it in and went back to bed. We both did. And I went to sleep. Because I've learned early on that you do not react. You do not acknowledge. You do not fear. Because these things feed off of that. You can see all sorts of stuff. I'll get back to that story. During my single years, 8-10 years, I forget how much it is, long it was, sitting there on the chair, and to my left is the couch, and there is the TV. I'm sitting there one evening by myself, and I look over, and there's 3 shadow people sitting on the couch. Shadow people, this dark, 3-dimensional outlines of people. And one had a top hat. It was just weird as heck. And I look over, and there's these 3 shadow things looking at me. And I just went back to watching TV. Again, you do not acknowledge, you do not feed, you do not look for them. I don't see you. And then they just disappeared after a while. They sat there, I don't know, maybe watching YouTube with me because it was entertaining. I always watch entertaining stuff, but they just kind of faded away. But getting back to the computer thing, so I went back to sleep, and then my wife stayed up all night. She was terrified. And I've been trying to tell her, you do not acknowledge. You do not see the stuff. You do not hear it. It's a way to save yourself. She stayed up all night watching orbs out the window because the bedroom window faced the nature center in the parking lot, floating through the trees. And many of the night, too, she saw this shadow person walking along the trail that you could see with a lantern. Weird stuff. Needless to say, took that headboard off. I've got the leather still. That's not creepy. And placed it back next to the good board in a spot in the proximity to the fire circle. Weird. That's just one thing. Oh, you want to hear something else? Stuff that I, as well as other people, have seen. My first year there, coming back from the pole barn to the house, which it was a lot different, Keith, back then. that area that has the snake root and the wild garlic mustard, which you should be picking, used to be like scrub trees. I forget, this was a while ago. I think willow, just scrub. And it's close. It's proximity, the area, distance from the pole barn to the house. I don't know, 25 yards. It's very short distance. Walking back from the pole barn at night, pre-cell phone, so I didn't have a flashlight with me. All of a sudden I saw that scrub move. I didn't hear what was making it move. All I heard was the scrub moving. And this thing burst out after me, and it seemed pretty angry. It wasn't a friend. It didn't want to say just hi, John. It was after me. And the best I can describe it would be, picture a bear melded with a dog, big, black with glowing red eyes, came crashing through that brush at me, and I made it, I swear, to the porch in 3 steps. Now, it was a while since I saw that creature again, and I asked the elders, what do you think this thing is? They said it was the spirit. Some said it was the spirit of the water that protected the place. Others said it was like a shapeshifter. Saw it after a while, after I got the Rokon, that 2-wheel drive thing, so that must have been 2005 or so, maybe. I don't know. Somewhere in there. I'm cruising past the pond. Picture a circular trail, and the center trail has a pond. That's kind of the shortcut to the beach. Cruising along the beach trail, past a pond, and there's an observation deck on the pond, and then a short section of boardwalk. I mean short, like 20 feet long or something. And I saw that thing, like it came out of the pond, ran at me on that short section of boardwalk, and then just ran along next to me, close enough to touch. I mean, it was right there for some number of yards. So it wasn't just I saw a shadow out of my eye and my mind created this thing. I'm sitting here watching this dog bear thing with the glowing red eyes running alongside of me, like literally close enough to touch. But that time, and I think that it's because it became accustomed to me and knew that I protected that place, there was no malevolence, there was no fear. It was just, hey buddy, ran alongside of me. And then there's a section of now marsh, swamp, marsh. Made a right turn and just disappeared into there. A few years later, visitors started seeing this thing, whatever it was, but in different forms. Little Pup, Keith, you'll see her license plate. It says Little Pup. She was one of our mall walkers, I'd call them. She would just come there, lived in Birchwood, and would just walk the trails, a few laps, just stay spry, and it's a nice place to walk. She's on the Cedar Trail, which is the deep cedar swamp to the right. And she saw it pass right in front of her. And I'm like, what did it look? What was it? And she goes, I couldn't tell if it was a dog animal or a cat animal. It was like, in my case, a bear dog kind of thing. Ran right in front of her and disappeared into the deep swamp, trees and stuff, a lot of water. And she said she couldn't tell if it was a dog or a cat-like animal, but it was big, cougar size, wolf size, with glowing red eyes. Soon after, like a week after, I had this couple that would go down regular for sunset, Harbor Springs residence. And they came up 10 minutes before sunset, and it was going to be a nice sunset. And I go, you didn't stay for sunset? And they're like, no. Because we were walking down the beach trail, and right in the swamp, there was this thing that was crouched down watching us. And I go, what did it look like? And they said, the only thing that we can think of is it looks like it was something out of Lord of the Rings. It was jet black with glowing red eyes staring at us. Okay. And then about a week later, this was a very active summer in that way, another guest saw on the Balsam Trail, because there's certain points on that. If you take it, you find the center of the preserve and you draw lines in the cardinal positions, north, south, east, and west. Where those cardinal points cross, that seems to be kind of a busy place. The east-west one's not the north-south. Somebody saw a jet black deer run in front of them with glowing red eyes. Now, it's a common thing that people will go to a place that they think is kind of spooky and sinister or weird or scary, what have you. Pick out your own adjective, and they'll burn sage. Well, the thing is, the sage does not scare that stuff away. All it does, and this is my own opinion, is it works up here. It's just like the smell of cedar, sage, sweet grass, tobacco, the four medicines, that it works to change you, not the place. Just saying. Well, that will be my spooky stories. Again, I was requested to tell you a few things here that I've noticed over the years, and that is it. That is the extent of my spooky storytelling on this channel. I'm going to go back to bows. Have a good one. Thank you for watching.